And then I can share my screen. Okay. Okay, so today I want to talk about kind of two things going on. You guys have probably heard a lot about the data table changes, and there's some other programmatic stuff for the T32s. And then I also wanted to give you an update from me, I should say, from the UCSD side, on I think one of the long-term issues, if you've been with us since the inception, is we've had this issue with the UAW increases for the pre-docs and the postdocs. And who's going to cover that gap, right? That supplemental gap between what NIH pays and what the university pays. So I think my whining and complaining has reached enough leadership on my campus. And so our chancellor decided to fund the supplements, as if you want to call them, I hate to use that word, that gap between, the UCSD stipend and the NIH stipend, I guess this way. So he has agreed to fund that for 3 years for our pre-docs only, not our postdocs. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So we have 3 years of funding, and we were supposed to have something sent out by now. It was supposed to be sent out last week, formally telling the campus of the changes, and we haven't finalized the language yet.
Is that health sciences or all campus?
All of campus. So,
okay, that's good.
yeah, and it'll be just pre-docs. So I'm assuming there's going to be some pushback on the postdocs, but hey, you know what? I feel like we're making progress. At least we're getting on somebody's radar. So anyway, I thought that was pretty good news. They're not helping out with stipends or fees. It's just strictly I mean, I'm sorry, they're only helping out with stipends. They're not helping out with fees or tuition. So that they won't give you any money for that. So the other thing on our campus is our graduate division. We usually give matching funds. So if you have 4 slots on a pre-doc application, they will give you 1 full slot, which is about $40,000 each year. So you could have a 5th slot. And so they have agreed that $40,000 given to pre-doc programs for that matching slot will not be given in the form of a fellowship anymore. It'll be just a straight 40,000. You use it however you feel is best to support the needs of your program. So I thought that was good news as well. So if they complain about, oh, you're not helping out with tuition and fees, well, this money here can also help. So so we're making some progress. But I wanted to kind of like formally announce it, but again, I'm waiting on people on campus to get their language together. So I thought that was just pretty good news. Once I get that, I'll send it out to the other campuses, and you guys can send it out to your leadership. Maybe they'll follow suit, or I don't know. Just maybe we're paving the way. So hopefully. So I don't know who attended the webinar, segueing into the next agenda. Yeah, I attended that webinar. I personally thought it was kind of a waste of time because all I do is read the slides and I don't know if you saw the chat. I think I saw something in the chat from you. Like they answer just softball questions. They don't answer any difficult questions. A lot of people asked about DEI, or faculty mentoring, and they won't answer those questions. And then if they do, I'm
They
sorry?
gave the same information like 3 different times,
Yeah,
is
I
what
mean,
I felt like. And here's all the links to everything you can look at yourself. And
but
I
if
was
you
like,
have
well,
a
if
real
that's the
question,
case,
contact your program officer. So
yeah, here's the things we're going to do. We're not going to tell you really how they're going to be done. And oh, by the way, there's this new requirement about the mentor training, but we can't help you pay for it.
yeah.
You know, you're not, if I wanted to just read some stuff, I would have just, read some stuff on my own time.
Yeah, the chat comments, just like anything else out there, right? Reading the message board was more interesting than the webinar itself.
I was
So,
doing the same thing.
and you could put like anonymous attendee. So I put a little snarky remark under anonymous. I'm like, and I just basically said, hey, you guys you answer the easy questions. Like, how many times do people ask, is this being recorded? Am I going to get the slides? When is this going to be up? It's like, come on,
Yeah,
so
I have to interject here. Hi, I'm Christian from UCSF. Yeah, I left in the comments in the survey after. I hope you all filled it out. I left it that it was basically a lot of nothing, and it's
mm.
not what we're asking, and not the information that we need. Yeah, I'm echoing
Yeah,
everything
I
everybody's
wrote that
saying.
little filled in that little poll too, because I was like, I'm sorry, it's not helpful at all. It's not worth my time. So, anyway, but so I just kind of wanted to go through the highlights today in case you missed it. And to me, I like to just simplify. I looked at their slides and just kind of simplify what's going to actually be changing. They keep saying it's going to reduce, your applicant burden or whatever, and reviewer burden, whatever. I don't really think it's that much, but basically it applies. This is starting after January 2025, so we have plenty of time. The new parent T32 will be coming out. I think they said in the fall sometime. They couldn't give a firm date. And it's going to apply to the entire T series, the T15s, the T32s. I don't even know if they have any actual pars right now for the T15s, but anyway, and then the TL1s, the TL4s, and then the international training series, and then the KL2s and then the K12s. So and there's the notice there. So one of the biggest things was they are going to take the recruitment to enhancement of diversity out of the program plan. And they'll still keep the 25-page program plan, but then they're going to take that out. So you know how like you have reproducibility and RCR, those are separate attachments. Same thing here, just going to have a third attachment for the recruitment. And then the parent FOA, the NOFO, FOA, whatever we call these things these days, it's going to have better definitions for the mentor training. And then of course there's the tables that are going to be slightly updating. So this is I just took this slide. I mean, this is basically what it's going to look like. You're going to have your 25-page program plan, then you're going to have your attachment for the diversity, the RCR, and then the reproducibility, and then everything else is kind of the same as far as the actual 398 looks like.
Hey,
So
Phil,
mhm.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this later, but given that separate, it's going to be that separate attachment now. They also said that it was going to be part of the criteria for scoring now. So we have to make sure that it's not just some paragraph that you stick into the program plan. It has to stand on its own, and it's going to be part of the scoring. So you
Yeah,
might
I
want
think
to.
that's my next slide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so it's going to be part of the additional review criteria, I believe. So I've had a lot of questions about you know the mentor training. When they first rolled it out, it wasn't exactly clear what the expectations were, what the training was about. I mean, I don't think they've been their typical vagueness. And so I think they're gonna, in the new FOA, NOFO, they're gonna be more specific in what they're expecting and what the expectations are. So these are just a couple of things that that's going to be highlighted in the NOFO. So this is kind of like what Nova was just talking about. It's going to retain those same 5 sections, right? You have your program and your environment, your program directors, your mentors, your trainees, and then your trainee records. So that's going to stay the same. And then the training, the RCR and the diversity will be moved to additional review criteria. So those will contribute to the overall impact score. So I think prior it was just kind of like pass or fail, like, okay, it's acceptable or it's not acceptable, and now it's going to be slightly different. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I'll just go on to the data tables then. So I'm assuming everybody in the room knows the data tables. For the first data table, they are eliminating one section based on your application type. So if you have a training program that is just strictly pre-docs, then you're just going to do part 1. And so you don't have to do part 2, which is kind of makes sense, right? It should have been that way the whole time, but, and then it's just, you know, vice versa. If you have just a postdoc program, you're not going to do the pre-doc part and you're just going to do part 2. Then of course, if it's a mixed application, you'll have to do both sides. You know, none of the actual numbers or the integrity of the numbers, none of that, none of those things change. It's just the parts of which you have to do now. So not much, a whole lot of, you know, not a whole lot of change there. So mentor records, I don't think they went over this in the webinar, but if you read the notice very clearly, it said they are going to have changes to this table too for the mentor records. And again, it's going to be based on if you have a pre-doc application or a post-doc application. Obviously, if you have a mixed application, it's going to be just the same exact thing that you've been doing. And then for the future, right? So if you're doing just a pre-doc application, you just have to fill in the pre-doc mentor records. And then, you know, the rest of it will be, you don't have to fill it in. And then again, vice versa. If you have a post-doc application, you don't have to fill in the pre-doc information and you just fill in the post-doc information. So a little bit less work. I mean, you know, it's still like wrangling them to get to that data to begin with is difficult. So, you know, I don't know how much easier, exactly how much easier it's going to be, but. So this, I thought I saw this little blurb in there in which, again, they didn't mention this at all on the webinar, but they just said there's going to have an additional part 2. So for if you have a multi-organizational, so I guess if you had, you know, multi-sites, and then you can be, it's just more clear on who the participating faculty are for each site and the research support. So there was no, you know, what do you call it? There was no examples or anything in the NOFO, but so I thought that was kind of interesting, look a little bit different. Table 5, I think the PIs are going to be really happy to hear this because the publications have been focused on the participating faculty members, the authorship and their trainee ability to train. And now it's going to be based on the trainee. So currently, if you're a participating faculty member, if you're doing a competing renewal and you have a faculty member that's been on for the last 20 years, they've, you know, trained 10 trainees, you can't right now and say he's retiring or they're retiring, and they're not going to be current faculty in the next renewal, you had to leave all those publications off. And now they're saying you're going to be able to include them. So they're kind of like flipping it, saying instead of it, the scope, I guess, and the aim of this table is about the publications, and they're really emphasizing the trainees and not necessarily the PIs. So
I think that's the only good thing about it.
I'm sorry.
I think this is the only good thing about all the change that I saw.
Yeah, and if you ever used extract, like it was very adamant, like you could not add in, you know, a publication, you know, and attribute it to a PI that was leaving, and it really did leave out a bulk of your, you know, trainees, and you know, you have new people that cycle off, you know, off and on all the time. So I think the PIs are going to be really happy to hear this. And then you're going to be allowed to add these interim research products. And so I'll get to the undergraduate stuff later. I don't know if we have any undergraduate application people on the line for that, but so this is the publication table is going to look it's going to look more similar to table 8. So table 8 has the trainee name first and then the faculty member. And so now table 5 will be, the same way, the trainee name first. The faculty member used to only be able to add 1 faculty member for publications. Now you can add up to 2, and then you can delineate whether it's a current faculty or past faculty. So that's kind of nice. And then I noticed, I don't know if anybody else noticed in here, but right in that 3rd section there's a hyperlink. And I think one of the questions in the webinar was the other day, oh, we can include hyperlinks in our applications. Nobody refused to answer that. So I don't know. I have a feeling that this sample that they sent was incorrect, but do not quote me on that, because I don't think you're going to be able to include the hyperlink there. So anyway, yeah, you can put the preprints in there, which is kind of cool, which I think a lot of us have probably doing that for a long time anyway. So just adding them manually. So it looks, more similar to the table 8, more consistent with that. Table 6, which I think this is a good start, I think, with them. I think this kind of goes back to they want it, and then we just got a notice on our campus about this. They want to go more towards a holistic review process for our graduate programs, and so they're trying to get rid of the GPAs or put less emphasis, I guess you could say, on that. So it's gonna they're going to be focused more on the post-appointment outcomes and not necessarily on the recruitment side. So some characteristics are going to be taken out. So the part 1 on the pre-doc side and post-doc side stays exactly the same. You have to do the same counts based on, the departments are involved with your program, how many actually were eligible for support, and the new entrants, and yada, yada, yada. So that stays the same. Nothing changes there. The part 2 for the pre-docs, basically you're taking out the mean months of prior research experience, which, to be honest with you, we always guessed at UCSD because we never asked this question on their pre-doc applications, so the graduate school applications. So that was always a guess for us anyway. The prior institutions, you don't have to submit that anymore. GPAs are out. So all you're going to have for characteristics is the percent from the underrepresented groups. And same thing with the postdocs. You no longer have to put in their mean number of publications and their first author publications, and no more prior institutions, just that percentage from the underrepresented groups. So that'll be a lot. I mean, honestly, I think for a long time, like we don't collect this data. So I think the reviewers are probably saying this is all pretty much made up. I mean, a lot of it's just an estimate. And so I think they finally just realized it's kind of worthless to do that. So anyway, so
We have been
that's
collecting that data, Jill.
huh?
We have started collecting that data. We have been literally just doing it manually, going to the CVs of the applicants and just counting the numbers, and it has been a nightmare. So
Yeah, it's a
like,
total
bless me.
nightmare. And people would ask me, am I supposed to check every single CV? I don't even have every single CV. And I just said, do a sample and, base your,
We
make an
have been getting the whole application from AP, so it has been a nightmare.
Yeah. So I'm glad that part's going away. I mean, the counts are difficult enough for the postdocs. The pre-doc counts are no problem. We can get that from grad division, but the postdoc counts are you still don't know how many applications, you're getting for each participating faculty member. So I mean, that part's definitely helpful. Table 8, there's no changes to the actual structure, what they're asking, the content. All they're saying is you don't need to add clearly associated students, trainees. And so you're just going to be reporting on those that were actually appointed to the training grant, if it's a continuing training grant, or if it's a new application, it'd just be the recent graduates. So clearly associated is just completely out. And they never really like enforced that anyway. It was kind of I don't know, a matter of interpretation. I had one PI that said there's absolutely, you know, the trainees that are on my training grant receive a very unique, you know, training experience, and there's no clearly associated. So we didn't have to do it. Okay. But then you have other groups that, you know, they have, you know, 100 trainees, 25 of them are on the training grant, and they would report on the other 75. And so now it's not required. And this will apply to, because table 8's in the RPPR and in the renewal, so that you no longer have to do that. So
Hey,
yeah.
Jill, I have a question. I know
Sure.
it's no longer required, but is it allowed? So if people have clearly associated and they think it makes a stronger case, or are they going to be allowed to, or is it like absolutely not allowed? Do you know, like allowed
That's
versus
I don't
required?
know if it's like 100. I don't even know if you're going to be able to add them. You know what I mean? Like an
Right, that's what I
extra.
mean. Yeah, like
Yes, I don't know.
Okay.
But then they always say you can add, you know, you can add it to the narrative or the program.
yeah, that's true.
You know, you are going to have a little bit extra room now that you have that enhanced with the diversity, right?
Right. Just have 3 extra pages to write something.
I know, right? So you can write about this kind of stuff. So then you're still going to want to track them, right? If you want to put your data in the program plan. So I think that's, oh yeah, that was, and then the undergraduates, I don't know if anybody here does undergraduate programs, but if you do, they're actually increasing for you. Because right now they only have to do tables 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. And now they're saying you're going to have to do tables 1 and 7. So you're going to have to do the departments and programs. And then if it's a renewal, you do table 7. So they actually have to do more work. But that's just basically aligning it with all the other training grants. So yeah, I think that was it. You know, they didn't talk about like you know, the logistics and what extract, how it's going to be slightly, you know, it's going to look slightly different, obviously, but that was pretty much the gist of it. Did I miss anything? Who else was there? I tried not to read from the slides like they did. I know.
Not everything. I specifically asked them to share examples as to what like extract would look like, so we could, you know, see the differences, but they didn't even respond to that at all.
Yeah, they haven't probably even.
Well, it
Yeah.
sounded like they haven't even really implemented any of the changes yet, and they weren't.
Well, I mean,
planning on doing
they
it
have
until
6,
the
7
fall.
months, so yeah.
That would have
but-
been more helpful though, if they could have like walked through what it was gonna look like or something, rather than be, you know. giving
Yeah,
us
I'm a visual person. Like I wanted to actually like see it, not just put words on the screen. I need to actually see, okay, how's it gonna be? It's gonna look different. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So less work, right? So does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we can just open it up and talk about anything else anybody needs to talk about. You know, it used to be like the same radio silence. Now it's like Zoom silence. You're like, oh, is anybody listening?
I'm listening. I just,
okay.
you answered the one question that I had this morning. And it's just, I haven't done a training grant at UCSD. So that's why I needed clarification.
Yeah, so actually Marisol, we're kind of talking about that when people are logging in. So she had the question, if you could use federal funds to supplement a postdoc. And our guidance at UCSD is yes, you can. Now you can't supplement a pre-doc with federal funds, but you can do it for a postdoc. So, and the reason that I've been told, and I don't know if this makes sense, it doesn't make sense to me, but postdocs are considered exempt, so they can receive their supplementation from federal funds. I don't know, I don't understand quite the logic on that, but this is why, like, our chancellor is giving us extra money. One of the reasons why the chancellor is giving us extra money is, you know, these PIs were complaining, we can't use our federal dollars to supplement these students anymore, and we don't have discretionary funds. And so he's saying, yes, you can do it for, I'm going to give you money to help out with the pre-docs, but not with the postdocs. So I think, you know, every campus is, I'm learning every campus, even though we're all the same entity, UCOP, right? University, the regents, we all interpret it differently, right? We all have different interpretations on each campus. So that is our interpretation. So it's always interesting to find out it's always interesting to hear the other campuses' interpretations. So
Now, to clarify that question came about because for this particular person, they would be split postdoc fellow and be on the T32 as a postdoc fellow. Then the supplement would be postdoc employee title and pay. So that postdoc employee title and pay is a salary amount, not a stipend amount. So
there are two different appointments in UCPAT. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that because that too was news to me, because at my other institutions, you don't split a person's title and pay that way. That's just not the way that the institutes did things. So that was new to me and enlightening.
So Marisol, can I ask, where did you used to work at?
I worked at Scripps Research and I worked at Sanford Burnham Previs.
Oh, okay. So you were just like across the street. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind that at least that those two appointments, taxing is different. So I hear this question all the time, like, you know, am I only getting, you know, a W-2 that says this tiny amount when so keep in mind that that makes that more confusing as well, you know, when you have the split appointment. So almost all postdocs have a split appointment because you have to supplement them in some way. So almost all of them on training grants have a split appointment or two appointments. And both are they're taxed differently. So keep that in mind.
Yes, ma'am. And my department has a department policy that it's my responsibility as the research administrator not to give tax advice, but to educate the trainee that if they do take the appointment, they are responsible for finding the appropriate tax guidance to know how much taxes they should be paying on their fellowship, either quarterly, biannually, or annually as appropriate. And I am not in a position to give any advice because I am not a CPA. So
that's exactly what I say.
You know, I do have on my website, my training grant website, I do put a lot of information on there. And I think there's a way you can phrase it, you know, to say, hey, this is tax information. It's not advice. You know, this is what you should expect, but don't, you know, you're ultimately they're responsible for it. So, I mean, I think it's a horrible topic for postdocs and predocs. They're so busy, like focusing on their research, and who wants to pay taxes 4 times a year? I mean, I think it's just, I don't know. That's just me. Anybody else have any topics? Kylie, what's going on?
Hi. I just wanted to, because you already talked about it, but for like the pre-doc supplement, you said that you were working on the verbiage, but is that something we'd have to apply for? Like we'd submit a form and say, like, we need it? once it comes out?
We're still working out the details on that. I probably
Okay.
should, and I recorded this, I should probably, I may not post it until after, on the YouTube channel. Because it hasn't been formally, I shouldn't have, it's not formally announced yet. I don't exactly know the whole procedure, how that's gonna happen. But, like you work with Betsy and Mike, and I mean, I think I told Betsy, I thought I had a conversation with her about it, but they're all slowly finding out. So it just hasn't been officially announced yet. And I know I'm going to be the point of contact as far as, helping administer the funds, but I don't know how any of it's going to work yet. I haven't, so.
Jill, I do know that the JDP, one of the JDP director or JDP coordinators for the JDP in public health, she told me that this came out, so it's not like it's a secret.
Andrea Spadoni?
No, the JDP coordinator, Carrie Goldsmith, she's
Oh,
she's
okay.
the coordinator, not the faculty.
Okay, yeah, because I had talked to Andrea, so I kind of mentioned it to her. I think because some of these PIs are just like so up in arms, and I just wanted them to know, okay, something's on the horizon. There's going to be some relief for you, because I know a lot of them are redoing their appointments right now, right? So yeah, but the word's slowly getting out.
I can quickly chime in, like for
Mhm.
UPI at least, the supplement that we have for the pre-docs, it's going directly to the PIs. That way the students don't have to struggle to we don't have to struggle to find the students, and it will be easier for the program director and the PIs. So that's the route that we decided to go.
So you guys, just so I'm clear, so you're at UC Irvine and they already give money, your campus already gives money just directly to the program,
Right.
program PI.
Program director, yes.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
they do what they take care of it. I mean,
Right. And
okay.
it's easier because I mean, looking for the students or the students just like applying, it's just much harder. How do they find
Mhm.
out? How do we find them? It would take much longer. So we decided to go that route to just help out everyone. It will be easier on us too.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they want to work it. So, I mean, we can't even get the language down. So,
And
I-
that's the UAW relief funds for UCSD Health Sciences.
it's
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 by PI.
it's not going to be called UAW relief funds.
No, I know, but I mean, that's how the funds for that, for postdocs, it goes to the program director. So they may use something similar because they already have that in place.
I don't think they're going to do the same, but again, I don't know. I can't say 100%, but I don't
No, I
think
mean, the route of money that it goes to the PI or instead of the individual fellows or the individual pre-doc.
Yeah, I think it's gonna just, there's gonna be a chart string that just pays for that supplement. But I don't think the money's actually gonna be transferred over to the department of, or the home department of that PI, wherever the training grant lives. So we'll see. It's hard to comment on stuff that I don't really know about yet. So.
Yeah, it will take some time for us because it's the funds are going from grad division. So at least we had some say and we were just like, okay, this is the easiest way. So
Yeah.
it depends on who is handling things and understanding what the training runs are and how they function. That helps a lot.
Yeah, so you're gonna remind me, do you work for grad division or you're in the grad division? Okay.
I'm in grad division.
So I wish we had a really strong grad division like Irvine. Hint, hint, you could come work for us sometime.
Sure, yeah.
Our dean is leaving. There's a spot available. You never know, right? Did anybody else have any questions? I don't know if we're gonna have a July meeting. That's our next meeting. I am actually out of town that week. I think isn't that the week of. Oh, yeah, I am out of town that week. I don't know. Well,
July 4th meeting?
I'm sorry.
Are we doing second Monday?
It's the second Monday, so it's the 8th. I don't know. I think a lot of people might, with 4th of July, just the week before, the Thursday before. I don't know. I think we
I'll
could
be
probably,
gone that day.
I think a lot of people will be traveling or whatever. Anything else? If not, I'll go ahead and close it. I'll stay on if anyone wants to ask questions or whatever, but yeah,
Thanks again, Jill.
my pleasure. I hope everybody has a good week.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Oh, nice.
So are you happy about the change? At least we have some relief for the tables. I'm happy about table 5 because we can proudly include the preprints and a lot of headache. The mean months have been killing us, and we just started collecting them. I convinced grant division to collect the data, and then now we cannot use them.
I had a conversation with our grad division, I think it was like 5 years ago, whether they could start collecting that data. And they could never come to a conclusion, and they still haven't to this day. So now they just scratch that one off the list. They
I
don't have-
know, you're lucky. I made a stink last year. So last year they collected them. So this is the first year we got like complete data. I was so proud of myself. Now I cannot use it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I think with the publication stuff for the postdocs, I think that's good that that's out, because that was a pain to, if you really wanted good data. I mean, they just weren't. It's just not.
I sat down and extracted the data for 5 years. 5 years data.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, I just want to sit at a corner and